Hello once again, it's Curtis Cunningham with United Country Wagner Auctioneering and Real Estate, here kind of working you through the home buying process. So I appreciate you tuning in and appreciate you sticking with me as well. You know, I'm not the most verbose and exciting speaker, I understand that, but you know, I do hope that you get this well-rounded education, if you will, in home buying so that we can, you know, be successful in that, kind of teach you throughout that tips and tricks and know-how to get you that dream home. So you know, bear with me in some of my dry personality, if you will, and we'll get through this information. And again, I really hope it benefits you in your situation. So I'm not even sure what this is, 5th or 6th video kind of in the series. I've broken it up a little bit more as far as getting some more details and things in. So what I want to talk about today is closing costs. So when you go to purchase a home and go to get that loan to do that, your mortgage, the lender is going to charge you, the buyer, basically for their work, okay? And that can come across as, there's a lot of different terms and things. So I'm trying to think, sometimes it's just under like admin costs, origination fees, and different things like that. And they also set up your escrow accounts, and so they collect money up front for those. And escrow accounts, by the way, so when you pay your mortgage, you have principal and interest, that's the money that's due, okay, to the lender. And then your escrow accounts, and typically in 99% of the time, the lender is going to collect from you, on top of your principal and interest, is taxes and insurance. So them providing you the money to purchase the home, they really want to make sure that the taxes are being paid and you have insurance on the property. And so you get to choose your insurance company, that's not part of it. But what they'll do, the mortgage or the lender, what they'll do is collect money to pay those bills for you. So they're the ones actually getting the bills. You're paying a little each month. So let's say your taxes are $1,200 a year, so they're going to collect an extra $100 per month. So when that tax bill comes due, they're going to pay that for you just to make sure it gets paid, okay? So when we talk about closing costs, they are collecting a little bit of that up front to pay those next set of bills. So yes, part of these closing costs are paying that lender the origination fees, like I said before, for their work up front, but it's also setting up these accounts and getting those in place within your mortgage so they can pay those later on. So, you know, how much to expect as far as closing costs are concerned, I'm going to give you a very rough estimate, and it's really going to depend on the loan type you use. So the prior video was about loan types, so it's going to depend on that. It's going to depend on those escrow accounts. So if your taxes, if you live in an area that taxes are like twice as much as, you know, where we are here in East Central Indiana, you know, so your closing costs are going to be more. But what I typically see is about $3,500 or so. I've seen some lower and I've seen some higher. So your loan type, so let's talk about the government-backed loans of FHA, USDA, and VA. Talked about those kind of in length in the prior video, but when it comes in regards to closing costs, those loans are more expensive up front for you to get. I saw a settlement statement the other day, and basically they're lumping into your loan. I think this was it was an FHA purchase, and I'm trying to think of the price point. It was like $160 price point or whatever. And there's an upfront fee that FHA will charge, and it was like $2,200. And so if you go for one of those type of loans, you just have to understand, you have to ask that question to the lender. Okay, let's talk about closing costs. What are they? And so again, with all that and everything else being normal, it's going to be about $3,500. Now, if you're in the market for, or if you're purchasing like a manufactured home, it's going to be even a little bit more. There's a more in-depth appraisal that needs to be done, and they need to get a structural engineer to sign off on that, make sure the foundation's there, and you know, not just still on axles and things like that. So that one's going to be more expensive because of those things. And if you go the conventional route, they're going to be a little bit less. But again, this is when you speak to the lender and you're talking about loan types, it is not just about monthly payment. You really got to ask that question. It is important. But interest rate as well. You kind of want to know what that interest rate's probably going to be. And then you're going to want to talk about closing costs. And up front, we're just going to need, a good estimate, okay? So depending on the loan type, what we talked about before, you have different down payments as well. And so if you're trying to basically look ahead and say, okay, at the closing table, how much money am I going to need? So down payment's going to be one factor, and there are loans out there, USDA and VA, where you don't have to have a down payment, so that's a 0% option. Again, FHA is 3.5%, and then conventional can range 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to, 90 if you really wanted to. But so think about the percentage of the down payment that you're going to have to come up with, and then your closing cost. And that's what you have to bring to closing in order to purchase the home. Now, what is typical, it happens quite a bit, is that there is an opportunity for the seller of the property to cover all or part of your closing costs. And there's certain parameters according to the loan type. So what does that really mean? What does that look like? So you would present your offer, let's say $100,000. We want to buy your house, $100,000. At that price, we're requesting, we'll put a dollar amount, $3,500 to help us close our loan. And so basically that's saving you putting that out in cash. The seller obviously has to agree to it. So let's say they were asking $100,000 for the house, and you give them an offer of $100,000, and you say, well, I just gave them a full price offer. Not really, because you've just asked for another $35,000 to be covered of your personal expenses. So really, they're taking 96.5% for their house. Now, what I've found is kind of the older generations, when you go to present something like this to them, some of them, not all of them, take kind of the attitude of, well, when I bought this home, I paid my own costs, and I think people should be paying their own costs, and I don't want to pay for any of that. Some draw a hard line there, not a lot, and so we try to work past that as best as we can. And basically what I tell somebody that I'm representing to sell their home is that, we just need to look at the net offer. So if we're in the scenario, if we're within 96.5% of what you want, that's not a bad offer. I'm not going to say they need to take it, but there's some things to consider for them. Maybe they accept an over ask price for their home in order to then kick back the closing cost assistance to you, the buyer. So that happens quite a bit, especially in this area, in this market as well. Some other things to consider would be the amount that you can request. So this is all based on percentages, and we'll start with the conventional loan. So if you have a conventional loan, you can only ask up to 3% of the sales price to be covered for you. So again, $100,000, you can only ask for $3,000 to be covered for you. And so if your closing costs are $4,000, then you'll need to make up that difference. You'll need to come up with another $1,000 on top of your down payment. The other programs, so VA, USDA, and FHA, you can ask up to 6%. Now, I will warn you. So a lot of people will think, okay, fantastic, I can get that 6% in my favor as long as the seller agrees, and that would be fantastic. The warning is over asking for your closing costs. So I was involved in a transaction in a situation where I represented the seller, and we sold the home for $150,000. There's another agent involved for the buyer, and the buyer wrote the offer, said, yes, we'll pay you the full $150,000 if you cover up to 6% of our closing costs. So I had to have the discussion with my seller that, be prepared. You'd have to take 6% less if you agree to this. However, there is no way that somebody's closing cost would be $9,000. And really, by the letter of the law, you can only use that towards closing costs. You can't use that as far as additional down payment or things like that. There's some caveats in there, so this is general information. And in this particular situation, it came out to be that the buyer's closing costs were about $4,000, and so they negotiated $9,000 off the price from my seller. However, they could only use $4,000, and so they let $5,000 essentially of bargaining kind of disappear. So they could have bought the house $5,000 cheaper had they been a little more realistic with what they asked for as far as seller's concessions were concerned. And that worked out in my seller's favor, but that's just something you have to consider, because again, a lot of people see, I can ask up to 6%, I'll do that. There comes a point where that doesn't make sense anymore, and then we just go in either with a lower percentage or we have a hard number that we ask to cover your closing costs. So again, $3,500 or $4,000, whatever it may be. But that is a very good question that you should be asking that initial kind of interview or application for your loan. So again, what's my payments going to look like with the interest rate, and then what loan type dictates a lot. But then those closing costs can kind of make or break a transaction. I'll be honest, we do it a lot, but if there's multiple offers on a home, that we see that quite regularly now, and somebody offers the same amount as you do and they don't ask for closing cost assistance, they're, all other things being equal, they are probably going to get the house. But if that's the only way to get you into the home, we're going to structure the offer and the deal to do that for you. So it's up to you. If you can swing it, your offer is going to look a little bit better if you don't ask. If you can't swing it or you don't want to swing it, I had the conversation the other day where they said, you know what, we could pay it. However, there's some immediate upgrades that we want to make to the house. And so if we pay our closing costs as well, that's going to kind of liquidate all of our cash reserves for the house. And so if they'll pay for it, that's fantastic. And then we can turn around. In this scenario, they wanted to put carpet in a couple rooms. So there it is. So that's kind of the brief. I say brief, and we're probably one of the longer videos about closing costs. I'm going to throw a little sidebar in here because I've been reading as much as I can kind of what the new administration's doing to help the economy and in turn the housing market. So the housing market right now is nuts anyway. So for instance, I'm in Randolph County today, and I believe there were 20 active properties in the entire county for sale. Supply is way down. Demand is actually way up. It's not even holding steady. It's way up. So that's kind of the challenging market we're in. However, I bring this up because I have read a few different places that they are looking into at least bringing back the first-time home buyers credit. And basically what that is, that helps with down payments, so that gets people into the homes that may not have the cash reserve to do so. And I don't know if that's happening. Nobody really knows if it's happening. But a lot of people ask about that. Hey, I'm a first-time home buyer. What programs are out there? Really, right now, there's not. Now, there's some grants that could be applied for depending on the municipality or the city that you live in. That's possible. Again, speak with the lender about that. But, back in 09-ish, I think it was 09, they started doing the first-time homebuyers tax credit. And again, it helps you with the down payment. But please realize the government wants that money back, and it's coming off your taxes for the next 3, 5, 7, 8 years. I don't know what that's going to look like. But it's basically repaid through your taxes over the next few years. So that's just a little sidebar. again, I'm kind of watching it. There's really nothing concrete out there that that's actually going to happen or not. If that does happen, I'll have to edit this video or add another one, something to explain kind of the ins and outs and all that. But that's the gist of it. So if this is your first home that you're purchasing, as of right now, the date of this video, there is no first-time homebuyers tax credit in place, but it may be around the corner. We'll see. So again, appreciate you tuning in and sticking with me for here 15 or 16 minutes going over closing costs. And so, as always, if you have any questions, you can comment below or just contact me directly. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.